Hello, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to run you through the bike that I'm using for the Transcontinental Race. Now if you don't know already, the Transcontinental Race is a 2,500 mile self-supported bikepacking race across Europe. This year it starts in Roubaix in northern France and it finishes in Istanbul, Turkey. So this is everything I'm going to need for around 10 days on the road. Now I've already ridden the Transcontinental Race twice already, 2014 and 2015, and I used pretty much the same bike in 2015. Actually won that edition. So I'm using the Mason definition. Now back then I was on the very first Mason edition from the very first batch of frames. Now we're on V3 now, so this is it's essentially the same bike, just a few modifications compared to back then. Things like through axles, slightly bigger clearances, refinement to the cable routing, things like that. But essentially it's the same bike, so I know it works and I trust it. It's steered actually tubing, aluminium frame. And yeah, I've used this bike since well, the end of last year, so I've already done the Japanese Odyssey on it. I've done a lot of training on it, so I trust it, and yeah, hopefully it'll take me down to Istanbul again. Now if you watch any of my race coverage and videos, you'll know that I do give SRAM Axis a bit of grief for things like the Tour Divide, but here I am lining up for the Transcontinental Race with SRAM Force Axis, so wireless shifting. I actually used it on the Japanese Odyssey, and to be honest, it's been okay for me. And I think on a road bike, when you're not going to be exposed to lots of sort of extreme conditions and wet and dirt and mud like you would be on Tour Divide, I think it's okay. So fingers crossed it works. I've got SRAM Force. I've got the power meter on there as well. I've actually got 2 spare batteries and the charger, so hopefully that'll be enough to see me through. Gearing, I've gone for the 33 tooth rear sprocket, and up front there's a 33 tooth inner ring as well, so I've got a 1-to-1 gear. I'm expecting some steep climbs, and at the end of a 10-day race you're going to be really tired, so you're just going to want the easiest gears you've got. So hopefully that covers those bases. So I've upgraded the group set, or the bearings. As you probably know by now, I use Enduro bearings. I use the XD15 bearings. So I've got an XD15 bottom bracket, and I've got XD15 bearings in the hubs. I just find they last really well. I've not had to replace any XD15 bearings I've put in any of my bikes so far, and they do improve over time. So they just use some quite sort of specific metal, steel, and over time it basically smoothens out even more. So they should in theory get faster and last the distance. You know, when you're riding sort of 2,500 miles in one go, you need to be sure that your bearings aren't going to start falling apart at the slightest sign of rain. So yeah, I trust them, and yeah, so they're all over my bike. The brakes are the Force brakes. I've just put new rotors on, and I'm actually going to run Swiss top brake pads for the Transcontinental Race. I just find they feel a bit nicer, and they don't make so much noise when they get hot. So yeah, Swiss top pads, very expensive, but I kind of think they're worth the money, and I think they last long enough to justify the cost. Wheels, I'm running the Hunt sub 50 wheels. Now these are the newest wheels in the Hunt Limitless range. They're basically tested in the wind tunnel, meant to be super aerodynamic. They've tested around a 30mm tyre, and they're meant to be pretty fast. Whether that counts for anything in the grand scheme of things, I don't really know, but when I won in 2015 I was on the basic 4-season disc alloy wheel set, and that was 1,600 grams. These are around 1,400 grams, and they're going to be more aero, and so yeah, hopefully it's going to be improvement. Tyres, I've gone for Hutchinson Challenger 32mm tyres. Now these certainly aren't the fastest rolling tyres out there for sure. However, they are designed basically to go the distance. So they're slightly thicker, and I mean, I've been running these tyres most of this year. I've probably done 2,500–3,000 miles on them already, and you know, they barely look like they've been used, and I've been riding off-road on them. So my theory is that I could run a fast tyre, or I could run a slightly slower tyre that retains air. I mean, a slower tyre with air in it is much faster than a lightweight tyre with no air in it. So my theory is that they'll go the distance, and there's going to be a lot of off-road and gravel sections on this particular edition, so hopefully they can withstand that. The 32mm width gives me a bit more comfort, and actually paired up with the rims, the front rim on these wheels, they're not the same profile. The front one's a bit wider, so that actually gives me 33.5mm tyre volume when I measure them up, and it's bang on 32 on the rear, so hopefully I'll have that little bit more comfort on the front as well. So speaking of the gravel sectors, in order to make things a little bit smoother, I've actually fitted a redshift stem on here. So this is a suspension stem. It's basically got some rubber elastomers in there, and it just gives you a little bit of flex. I think is about 20 mils worth. Most people don't run them on a road bike, and to be honest, if you're road racing or something like that, you really wouldn't want to have it. But for ultra endurance riding, I think it's perfect, and hopefully it means I can be a bit more comfortable on the gravel sections. And also by the end, I'm going to be tired and your reactions are slower. So if you hit a pothole or something, it's just going to take that edge off. So I think it's going to be a really good addition to the bike. You can also see the bars. I'm running these really fancy aero bars. Obviously it's a road race. I've always treated the TCR essentially like one big time trial. This year I've got these really fancy jet bars from Data. They're just really comfortable to ride on there, and I've got the the 76 Projects blip shifters. So I've got the SRAM wireless blips on the front, so I can shift the gears from the bars, and these little 3D printed holders just hold the blips in a different position. They give me a bit more length on the extensions, and it means I can just hook my fingers under the end. Gives me a few different hand positions, and helps me be a bit more comfortable. And then you can see I've got my Wahoo Roam just mounted on the inbuilt mount on the bars there. For the contact points, I've actually changed my saddle for the TCR this year. I'm still running an ergon saddle, but I've swapped up to the SR Men Pro. It's more of a road saddle compared to the one I normally use, and it's got a longer channel towards the front. I just found that when I was in that kind of fairly aggressive aerodynamic position, I just needed a bit more of a cutout because I was sitting further on the front of the saddle. So I've swapped that. Seems pretty good so far, so hopefully I'll be nice and comfortable. And I'm running the ergon bar tape as well. Again, nice and comfortable, good on your hands. You're going to be doing a lot of riding over the next few weeks. So yeah, hopefully that helps. Pedals, I'm actually running mountain bike shoes and pedals, as you can see. I decided not to run road shoes, mainly just because when you're walking around, sort of going into resupplies, petrol stations, it's just a lot easier to walk around in road shoes. And there are some gravel sectors, and if it was muddy, if it did rain for some reason, it's just a bit better to have mountain bike pedals, even though they probably don't look as good as they should. I think road bikes should have road pedals, but I'm willing to take the hit for this particular race. And then onto the luggage. As you can see, I'm still running tailfin, and I'm actually pretty much running production stuff now. So I'm running the new tailfin frame bag. This is the largest size. I've got it's a large frame, 60 centimetre frame, so I'm lucky enough to be able to fit that in there, and I can just about squeeze in 2 1-litre bottles as well. I've used a bottle dropper on the bottom one, and this one here, you just have to squeeze it under the bag, but it fits. It's going to be hot in the south of Europe, so I want to take 2 litres worth of water. Then I've got a full-length top tube bag as well. These aren't quite production yet, but they'll be here very, very soon. So what you see is essentially a production bag. In there, I've just got things like sunscreen, tools, things like that. I'm carrying a little bit more than when I last did TCR. I did the last of TCR 9 years ago, 2015. I was a bit younger and a bit more stupid back then. I took hardly anything. So this time round, I've just given myself a little bit more capacity. This frame bag isn't full up. There's quite a lot of space in there, so I can put extra food in there. Same goes for the top tube bag. There's a bit of space for food. And then I've got my bivvy. I am taking sleeping gear. Some people don't bother now because they just stay in hotels, but I just like the peace of mind that I can sleep anywhere if I get caught out. And yeah, I'm taking a little bit more than when I did in 2015. Just that back then I just took a bivvy bag and a silk liner and nothing else. There's nights I just slept on concrete without a mat. I can't do that anymore. So I've got a slightly larger sleeping kit. That's in this custom tailfin rear pack. This is the only one out there at the moment. It's about 4.5–5 litres, just enough to carry the bivvy. And that's, I've just got a 3/4 length mat, a silk liner and a bivvy bag again, and an inflatable pillow. So yeah, that all goes in there. And as you can see, I've just got some reflective bands. You have to take them for the race. There's a number of safety requirements you need to be able to take part in the race nowadays. Reflective clothing is one. So this is just a band. I've clipped it around the pack just to store it. I've got 2 exposure lights, the Blaze and the Boost R. You need to have a bell as well. So I've got a nice little bell under here. Then I've got a Max D front light from Exposure, and I've got a joystick helmet light which will clip onto my helmet. I find that really useful just for, if you have a problem on your bike at night, you need to be able to sort of have a light pointed at where it is, and a main light doesn't give you that. Also, setting up a bivvy, you need a little torch. So yeah, the exposure joystick covers that base. I'll do a separate video showing you what's inside the bags. So for now, that is the bike check and the bike I'll be using for the Transcontinental race. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and all of that, and yeah, follow the race tracker, and see you in the next video.